Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Opinion Machine, the show where we talk about all things gaming. My name is Killjoy, and today we're going to be taking a look at another controller, another 8BitDo controller, but specifically the Lite Bluetooth gamepad. You're probably looking at that going, what on earth is that crazy looking thing? Well, this is a thing that can be used, wow, it says on the back here, Switch, Steam, Windows, Raspberry Pi. And it's a interesting controller for sure. So let's just grab it. Here it is. Here is the Switch Lite gamepad. I believe this was designed for when the Nintendo Switch Lite came out. But this controller itself, as you can see, has 3 D-pads essentially, which is not something normal. And this controller is obviously a little bit novelty. Look at the shape of it. So this might be one of those times when I'm showing off a controller and you're being like, why on earth have you got that? Firstly, because I like buying controllers for the Switch apparently. But if you want a size comparison, there is the Pro controller, there is this thing. This thing is quite small in comparison, but it's designed specifically for 2D games, as you can tell. The D-pads themselves on this, compared to the bigger brother controllers that they have, like the Ultimate and the SN30 Pro, these D-pads are a lot more clicky. And these D-pads aren't as big. So, already, for what the product is, it's not awful, but you're going to run into a lot of things that you might have issue with. If you're somebody that likes playing a lot of 2D games, then that's probably going to be, this is going to be massively beneficial to you. The only downside is trying to play 3D games with it, which I will show off later on. So let's talk about the controller, right? Let's talk about the D-pads first. Let's talk about the actual physical D-pads that are there rather than the split one. They are slightly smaller. They're very flush to the thing, to the controller itself. They don't feel bad. They're very clicky, which is good. They do feel very tactile, actually, which is nice. But I think these are the kind of controllers you're going to hit. You're going to actually hit the wrong inputs depending on the kind of game you're playing. I wouldn't recommend these as for a fighting game, I don't think, but you know, I'll have to try it out, see what they're like on that. Then you then have the other D-pad at the bottom here, which is this little fella. This is, well, just buttons. It is just buttons, similar to the X, Y, A, B, and face. Trying to show that off. Face buttons. They're just a little bit less height, I think, actually. Oh no, maybe not. But the problem is this D-pad in the bottom here, along with the face buttons, is they're very small. Yeah, very, very small buttons. This controller is meant to be compact, right? I get it, it's like a travel controller. You know, you don't want to use the Joy-Cons, or you want to hand somebody this, or you want to play some classic games. And I will be honest, the buttons here, the A, B, X, Y, don't feel bad. They don't click in nearly as far. They are quite hard, but they don't feel bad. When I'm holding the controller, it doesn't feel uncomfortable. Obviously, this D-pad, very clicky. Don't know. Not sure about that one. Doesn't feel amazing, but it doesn't feel awful either. It's very strange compared to having these actual physical D-pads. I'm not a fan of split D-pads. I really don't like the PlayStation D-pad. I've always hated it. I like my D-pads to be able to put my finger in the middle and then just roll it, whereas the PlayStation one, you kind of have to push it more effort than it needs to be. In the bottom left and right, so you've got these 2 little buttons here, and you've got this button here. The one on the right is the home button. That one there, for the Switch. The star button there is your capture button, and then in the middle you've got your plus and your minus, and then in the very middle of that you have your S and X, so depending on the type of input. And as you may notice, on the top there you have, where my finger is, you have the charging port, the sync button, and then you have both the LR and L and R, and yeah, basically those are your normal L and R buttons, the ones on the side, and then R2, L2 are there. Yeah, kind of weird, isn't it? It's a very weird looking little controller. This is something that I already would say to people, this is a specialist kind of thing. If you want it to take, if you want an extra travel controller, because the box itself is not that big. If you want to travel around with it, does come with a charging cable in here, by the way, which is USB-C, so any USB-C will charge this. You know, you can travel around. It's not like, you look at like other products. You got this bad boy and this thing. So this is obviously more, this is newer. This is a couple years old, I believe. But like, this is a lot easier to carry. Like, just look at the width of it. You can slot this, you can stick in your pocket, whip that out, sync it to a switch, and you're good to go. But this is not a controller for people with big fingers or big hands. These buttons, both the face buttons and this D-pad down here, are very small, they're very close together. There isn't much travel time. You can see the whole thing's fairly flat. The D-pads stick up the most. The actual plus and minus buttons are very slightly raised, but you can just run your fingers across them and not push them. You actually have to push to turn them on. Bottom, by the way, is where the lights are. And all in all, it's a bit of a weird controller. So let's try it out in some games, and I'll give you my impressions of it, and we'll go from there. Alright, we're going to start with the 2D games, just so you can see. There is a light on the bottom to show that it's working. Mario Brothers. We've got an easier level to show on here. I've got the original Marios. Let's just load up slot 1 again. Gives me the access to the mushroom. Why did I whistle? Just want to use the mushroom. There we go. Right. I'm going to be using this left D-pad, and then I'll try this bottom one, but we'll start with this one on the left here. Ooh, I actually got caught by that. Definitely very usable. Very usable. I'm not struggling to play this. Obviously, like I said, I'll try it with Donkey Kong Country after this as well, because I feel like that's a game that... Oof. This feels fine. Let's try with the split D-pad. See how we get on with that. Mario was never intended to be played with a split D-pad, so let's see how we get on. Oh, I hit that every time. I already don't like playing it with the split D-pad. It feels kind of weird. But there you go. See if I can make the lava. Oh, look at that. Lovely. Ooh. It doesn't feel bad. I just wouldn't recommend playing with the split D-pad in a Mario game. Let's switch over to Donkey Kong and have a little gander at that. Let's see how this feels. Starting again with the regular D-pad. Obviously, I can't use this right one, I don't think. I could be wrong. No. Alright, see if we can get any bum inputs. Oh no, we're getting the left and right, fine. Okay. Feels good, feels good. Button-wise, I'm just holding down the Y button. The buttons themselves work. I'm not having any issue with the buttons. So, but, you know what? If I hold this how I would normally play, which is probably down here, this feels good. I got no problem with this. Can I slap these? Alright, here's a test. How easy is it to back slap or forward slap? God, I'm so bad at this. I really need to find a specific method of doing it. Just roll my finger on the D-pad crazily. It's not going to happen, is it? So that's cool. So that means to me that it's kind of hard to... I mean, I probably can do it, but I'm not getting any dud inputs. I'm going to try playing the rest of the level with the split D-pad at the bottom and see how that goes. Oof. It doesn't feel good to use, and I can't really show this, but my hand position feels weird. Yeah, I don't like, because now I'm pushing buttons, whereas with the D-pad I can just sort of roll it back and forth. With this one I got to push, and it feels a bit small for what it is. So I'm just going to go back to the normal D-pad a minute. This genuinely feels fine to play. With Diddy. Feels good to play as well. Like, yeah, I'm not having any input problems, which I genuinely thought I was going to with this D-pad. So kudos to that. The D-pad itself might not be as good as like the Pro or something like the Ultimate 8-bit one, but it feels good. Let's switch over to a 3D game, because I feel like that's going to be the real test to see if this is any good for 3D games. Because let's be honest, this is designed for 2D. So let's do that. All right, we're going to do a time trial again, and use Mario Kart as an example of what this controller's like. I'm expecting this to go horribly wrong. I should probably test out another game, like a 3D Mario game would be pretty good for this, but let's see how we do. I'm going to try and do a lap with the top D-pad, and then we've got the hop there and the item button there. Alright. Oh, yeah. Okay. This does not feel... It feels doable, but it's almost like... Because remember, with a D-pad, it's digital rather than analog. There's no, like... As soon as I tap it, I'm going that way. Like, you can definitely get good at this game with it. Okay, let's switch over to the other D-pad. Hang on a second. Oh god, yeah, that just does not feel... Yeah, it's not just... Oh yeah, drifting's going to be a nightmare, isn't it? You got to really wiggle. It immediately goes back to the other one. It's also really not comfortable playing like this. Yeah, all I can say is this is not designed for this sort of game. I need to find something else really that would be better for showing this off. Mario Odyssey would be perfect, but I don't have that currently with me. But as you can see, you know, the actual D-pad, not bad. What, this right stick? I don't think this does anything, does it? No. But can you imagine trying to play a game with both of these? Like, both sticks? Let's just pause this a sec. This is not good for something like this. Like I said, you could do it if you don't want to use the Joy-Con. You could use this as an alternative, but it doesn't feel great for 3D games. It will be good for, like, Legend of Zelda, the remake that came out, Link's Awakening. I think that's probably why this exists. Something like that. There will be certain games that work, but bear in mind you don't have that. You've now got 8 directions, right? You don't have that kind of smoothness that you'd have on a game like that. In fact, there is one game I can show off using this controller, so bear with me while I switch games and I will show that off. Okay, so here is Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. This is a port of an older game. This is kind of ideal for what I was showing off, like the difference between using a D-pad as your movement option versus using an analog stick. Now, I can only go in 8 directions. There's no smoothness to this. Look, you can literally see just in the water, look how it is. I mean, I am slowly moving left and right because of the camera. And now the camera's on this D-pad. That does not feel good to use. I can spin it left and right. I can't really move it up and down. The actual buttons and stuff are fine. I'm not going to have any issues there. So, trying to block in this game is the tiniest button. You know, you're not going to play a game like this, really, with what I'm trying to do right now. And movement-wise, this is a good area just to show it off. Like, I have 8 directions I can run in, which kind of works for an isometric game. It's not the worst thing in the world, but trying to do that in the camera feels real bad. So, yeah, not really designed for the 3D games. You can definitely play it with something like this, but, you know, not ideal at all. So, final thoughts on this little fella then. This is definitely a controller that I would recommend if you want something to go traveling with that you can. It's very easy to take with you. This controller's about, I want to say, £20, I think. There's a blue one. I specifically bought the yellow one because it's garish, and I like my controllers to look weird. It is a weird controller. It's very niche for who this is for, but you know, if you like your 2D games, it's probably going to be good. Playing something like Shovel Knight on this, probably really, really good. Obviously, playing Mario was surprisingly good. Playing Donkey Kong was surprisingly good. If you've got big hands, it's not going to be very good for you. Obviously, it's also not. It's not as for extended periods of time. Like my 2 top fingers here, this is fine, but there's nothing to grip. It's not like a Pro controller where it's really comfortable to hold on to these, like, I don't know what you call these the sticky outy bits. You know, if you took those off, right, and just had to hold the controller like that, that's kind of what you have. But this thing is, you know, like I said, very niche, very for specific people who probably want to travel with it. It's very easy. You just slide it in your pocket, stick it in that one there. Like, you're not going to notice it, right? And you can just whip that out when you go around to see your friends and be like, hey, I've got my own controller. We can sync this up. Let's go. Has a good battery life. Like a lot of the 8BitDo stuff has good battery lives as well. But I would say unless you're looking to play a lot of 2D games or a lot of retro games, you're actually probably better off getting the 8BitDo SN30 Pro, Pro 2 Ultimate controller, because those D-pads I think are better. As you can see, that D-pad there is significantly more chunky. I much prefer that to something like this, which is quite plasticky. And that split D-pad at the bottom, which is all the buttons down there, not a fan of that at all. So unlike a lot of the other controllers that I've done, I bought this to have a look at it. It's kind of fun for what it is. I can't really recommend it for extended periods of playtime. It's only really good for certain types of games, so you are kind of limiting yourself. But if you are the kind of person that likes to have like a travel controller and you don't want to use your Joy-Cons or whatever, then this is probably a good alternative to that, and it's not that expensive. But yeah, just be advised if you're going to look at something like this, because it might not be quite as comfortable as you think it is, and obviously the trigger buttons and stuff are a bit of an issue. So it's not uncomfortable completely. It feels fine. It's more like a NES controller in terms of like there's a bit longer, a bit more. This is more rounded off, so it is a bit more comfortable. But for what it is, it has a specific purpose. So there you go. There are my thoughts on the 8BitDo Lite controller, Lite Bluetooth gamepad. Hopefully that's helpful to somebody. So thank you very much for watching this video. As always, if you like the video, hit like. If you want to see more content like this, then hit the subscribe button. Links for Facebook and Twitter will be down below in the description as always. And until next video, I will see you then.